You are listening to Sean Harrison on Amp Life Talk Radio, a place for amputees and those dealing with limb loss. The views expressed on the show by the host, co-hosts, and guests are their own. Always seek medical advice from a licensed medical professional.
And good morning. I always say good morning, and depending on what time zone you're in will really determine when you're actually listening to the show. But welcome to another episode of Amp Life Talk Radio. I'm always grateful for every opportunity I have to go live and talk with all of you out there in podcast land. If you're up and listening, or if you even hear my voice, some of you that have actually taken the time to go over to Spreaker and add the show, or actually register over there, you'll probably get a notification when I am live on air. Hopefully, most of you have done that, and you'll be able to get the notification so that you can go over to Spreaker and communicate with me, talk with me. They have a live feature over there where we can chat and do other various things like we used to do on Facebook. I'm moving away from that platform for many reasons, and I'd like for you guys to take the time to just go to Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com. Register, find the talk show over there, Amp Life Talk Radio. Very simple. And we can do all the things that we were doing at Facebook over here. What I will do, since I am on live right now and I'm actually in the chat room itself, I am going to post something over on Facebook. Actually, we'll see if we can post something over on Facebook, but I'm going to try and post a link over on Facebook so that all of you will know that I'm over here on Spreaker and doing the show. I'd like to take some time to do some back end stuff, some house cleaning. Most of you know that typically I would be over on Facebook at 5:30 in the evening doing the podcast, doing both a live show and a live podcast. Well, many things have changed since then, and I really don't use Facebook a lot. There was just so many issues that were happening there with just being thrown offline. We lose our live feed connection, just a host of things that were just going wrong, that I felt it was time to make a change. So I'm going to keep things simple and try to keep things very straightforward, and no longer am I going to be going over on Facebook and doing the various things that I did there. I'm just going to kind of reel things back in, keep things very simple, keep things very easy for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people were experiencing the same problems that I was experiencing, which is Facebook has its good days and its bad days. And I guess I was getting more of the bad days than the good days. So you have to kind of like keep everything in a place to where I want to keep the show easy and fun and not make it something to where it's so tedious for all of us involved, especially me, because I have a million things in front of me that I have to keep up with, guys, and it gets a little hard. So what I will do, so that all of you that are on Facebook, you can easily find the show. I'm going to post a live link over there now to where I'm at, and if you just click on that link, it'll bring you right into the show. So I'm hoping, really hoping that all of you will find that, and all of you will come over and join us. And more than anything, what I want you to do is to be able to sign up at Spreaker, because if you do that, then I don't have to do a lot of posting and telling you when the show is coming up or when I'm doing a live show. You'll actually get a notification, and I think that's just an easier way to go. It's just to make sure you get those notifications. So do yourself a favor, do me a favor, add yourself. It's really easy, Spreaker.com, and it'll just help me out. And you can come in and do your chats over here. We're in a weird place and time right now in our country and in our nation, with a lot of things going on, and it's really even weird to be doing a show right now because there's so many other bigger issues out there that are facing us as a country and as a people. I really sometimes get not bothered, but a little bit distracted with trying to put a show together. My thoughts and prayers are with our nation. I hope we do some healing, no matter what side of the aisle that you're on. I hope that everyone will realize that we are a people, one nation, and right now we've had a lot of things divide us, and especially for the amputee community, I'm a big advocate of amputees trying to find us support and help people deal with limb loss. I don't care what your political affiliation is. If you're an amputee, I'm here for amputees. And I think that's something that we've all kind of forgotten and pulled away from. And we've kind of got lost in this whole political, parade and farce that's going on out there. So, guys, try to get some love in your heart and love each other, be nice to each other, respect each other. I think that's the best thing I can say right now, is just respect each other. We all will have different views and opinions. We've got to learn to respect each other. That's my 2 seconds, but that's kind of like some of the back end stuff. It's just moving from one platform to another, and just with all the things that are going on currently in our world, and trying to come up with creative episodes for you guys. It does get a little bit burdensome because you're being torn in so many different directions with your emotions. With that being said, please register at Spreaker. We're not going to be doing a lot of Facebook Lives. I know a lot of you have seen the Morning Joe shows. We have some camera issues right now. I need a camera that makes me look really good in the morning. So my apologies for drinking coffee on air. But yeah, the camera, me and this camera, we're not getting along. So stay tuned for that, because that one I do go live, or we'll say I do a little video, but I keep them really, really short. Those are only about 20 minutes. And my shows now are only about 30 minutes. As most of you know, studies show that attention span of people is about 15 minutes. So no more of those long hour shows, unless I start rambling like this. But let's get back on track. Thanks and welcome. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Whether you're new or whether you just came across this podcast, welcome to Amp Life Talk Radio. We're on season 4, episode 24. And one of the things I deal with when I work with amputees is a lot of people, when they go through limb loss, whether it's the family or whether it's the amputee, They want to get back to normal. And you need to be very careful when you're talking to people about normal after amputation. It's a very, very tricky subject there. That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. So whether you're new or whether you're one of my normal listeners, I want to welcome you to Amp Life Talk Radio, the podcast, a show for amputees. Living with limb loss can be challenging. You have questions, concerns, and can feel alone in the process. Well, I'm Sean Harrison, the host of this podcast, and that's why I'm here, to try and help put some of those pieces to the puzzle together to guide you through this process of limb loss. Having resources along that journey as you become acquainted with living with limb loss or limb difference is why I'm here. Amp Life Talk Radio, again, is a show for amputees and those that are affected by limb loss. If you're an amputee, the biggest thing I want you to know and understand is you're not alone. Empowering amputees to reach their full potential through communication, education, and inspiration is the goal of this show and my purpose. Regardless of the reason, losing a limb is never easy. Both mentally and physically, amputation can have a negative impact or an effect on a person and inevitably changes their life forever, as well as the lives of their loved ones. While it may be no cakewalk, life after amputation is simply a matter of finding a new normal. Today we're going to talk about creeping normality, a new normal. What is a new normal? And I think that new normal is different for everyone.
Sean Harrison.
So as we look at the first segment of the show, finding a new normal after amputation, that's one of the biggest questions I get from the standpoint of a amputee peer visitor, peer mentor, peer counselor, working with amputees in the medical field, from working with surgeons or working with physical therapy staff. That's probably one of the biggest questions you will get placed in front of you. Again, my apologies, but my coffee, I need it. So when we're talking about normal, and we talk about this term, creeping normality, I want to give you an idea of what I mean by that. It's a process by which a major change can be accepted as normal and accepted if it happens slowly through small, often unnoticeable, gradual, incremental changes. The change could otherwise be regarded as, how can I say, objectionable. They may not accept it if it took place in just one big swoop. And I think what happens with most amputees when they go through an amputation, it's people try to consume it as one big bite. And the number one thing I say to most amputees that I meet, well, I won't say I say it to all amputees I meet, take it in small bites. I had one person tell me, a young man who was a motorcycle trauma, and he had lost his leg below the knee on one side, and on the same side he had lost his arm below the elbow. When I first saw him, he looked good spirits, the whole nine. I said to him, "How you doing?" And he said back to me, I'm taking it day by day. And I'm going to tell you, for me and for what I do, that is the best thing for me to hear a patient say. I'm taking it day by day, because you really do have to take it day by day. It's something that I would not recommend trying to do in one big bite. Amputation can be a very, very devastating event, whether it was disease related and planned for, that we knew was coming, or whether it was a trauma, happened all of a sudden, and you lost your limb. For new amputees, the whole process can seem intimidating, but it is always important to remember that no one goes through an amputation alone. No one. There's always going to be someone there with you, family member, friend, physical therapy staff, doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals. A lot of home healthcare people see amputees at home nowadays. There's always going to be someone there that's involved in your care as you go along this journey. There are a lot of resources and organizations available to help with everything from the pre-surgery consultations, which I do a lot of, to programs for lifelong peer support, which I'm a part of also with my company, Ampower. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but Ampower is a really good place to find peer support. In fact, I think it's empower.org is where you go and find the resources through Ampower. Of course, ACA, Amputee Coalition of America, where I first got my start getting into doing peer visits with amputees many, many, many years ago. A good way to calm fears is to learn as much as you can about the thing that scares you the most. I'm going to say that again. A good way to calm some of the fears is to learn the most about the thing that scares you the most. Educate yourself. Please, please educate yourself. That's what's going to help you as a new amputee. Even as an old amputee, it will help you. So my advice is look for resources. Of course, a lot of you know that I was in the process of writing a book. My release date was due. I was going to be doing that in January, but considering some of the things that are going on, I'm pushing that off because I don't want distractions to take away from the book itself being released, because I'm putting a lot of effort and work into that book to be a valuable resource for you. Amputees understand how to deal with amputation by getting help, guidance from other amputees, from other people who have worked with people with limb loss. There's a lot of resources out there. Finding them is the challenge sometimes. So when we talk about creeping normality and finding a new normal after amputation, we need to first come to grips with the amputation. Find some information on amputation and prosthetics as much as possible. I think that is the first and most important step in finding a new normal after amputation, and understanding that we cannot take this all in one big bite. It needs to be broken down into small pieces, small bits, bites that will help you. process, what you're trying to understand. As we go to segment 2, the healing process. This is different for everyone. Everyone takes this different. Everyone deals with it different. Everyone processes it differently. Your healing process will definitely have something to do with how your new normal comes about with dealing with the amputation. And I want to say, when we talk about normality, creeping normality, everybody's norm will be different. So don't get into comparing your norm to somebody else's. Some people may recover from amputation to a normal life that they had before. Some people may not. Some people may go beyond what they were doing before amputation to achieve more or to do more. What is your normality, or what's your normal after amputation, really depends on a lot of different variables. You being the key one, support system being the second. Those are the things that I've kind of seen from my perspective, dealing with patients, working with patients. Everybody's norm is different. So don't get downhearted by what you see other people doing. And don't compare yourself to other people's normal. What is the recovery process after amputation like when we talk about the healing process? Well, the short answer is it's long and can last years. The long answer is that amputation is not just a physical loss or the physical loss that people go through. There is the emotional side of that. The physical side is one part. Yes, everyone goes through the physical loss of a limb. It is also the readjustment of a person's very way of living. It's going to require relearning. I call it learning new habits on how to do many of the things that you did once before that were just second nature. Just boom, you get up, you go do something. You really didn't think that much about it. Now, things may require more time and more effort and more thinking on how you do things. Simple things, going to the bathroom, getting on the toilet seat, getting off the toilet seat, getting in the shower, getting out of the shower, standing, brushing your teeth, standing, shaving. All these things now require a different approach. The healing process begins with 3 main components: physical therapy and rehabilitation. I can't stress that enough to amputees. Physical therapy and rehabilitation is a very important part and process of getting back to normal in your healing process. Managing the risk of complications. You could be a traumatic injury amputee, where you have other issues that have come about from your incident or accident. You may be a diabetes patient or disease-related vascular, whatever caused that. There could be some other underlying comorbidities or complications that you're going to have to stay on top of being a new amputee. So those things, plus being an amputee, we have to manage all of the risks, complications, gait, mobility, and independence. That's the third one. I think that's the biggest one because most people want to get back to being independent. The mobility training, the gait training are all going to play a crucial part in gaining back mobility. And we're going to say normal mobility and independence. Gaining that normal mobility and independence back through gait training, which you'll get through physical therapy, rehabilitation. These are all key things, 3 components. And I get a lot of people that wouldn't, for this last one, people always say to me, I don't want to walk funny. I see people that walk funny. Well, it takes time. And that's why I'm saying for this healing process, the short answer and there's a long answer. Everything takes time. Everything takes effort. Keep that in mind if you've listened to the show, especially the new series that I started on how to set goals. These 3 things that we just talked about right here require setting goals. Your physical therapy, rehabilitation, managing the risk of complications, gaining mobility and independence, gait training, all require you setting some type of goals to keep you on track to get where you want to be. All of which require you to set some goals. Follow those goals. Stick to those goals. Know what those goals need to be. Segment 3, long-term care and the road to recovery. Remember, we're talking about normality creeping our way back to being the normal person that we want to be. Both physical and emotional recovery is something you will be doing from time to time after your surgery. But while physical recovery likely has an end date, emotional recovery can be ongoing. So I want you to understand that as we're talking about recovery, getting back to our new normal, the healing process, the physical aspect of that has an end date. The emotional end of that does not. That could go on for who knows how long. It's different for everyone. There is no set equation. There is no set timeline. Emotional recovery is something that is different for all of us. And it's very important for you to understand that. Emotional recovery requires us to be very honest with ourselves and honest with everyone that is close to us, trying to help us. Okay. There are no wrong feelings. I want to say that. When we're talking about emotional recovery, amputation, there are no wrong feelings. When it comes to amputation, emotions are all over the place. You'll hear the roller coaster effect. They're all over the place, up and down, sideways. You feel like you're upside down, which is why emotional recovery is an important, very important part. I'd say even just as important as the physical recovery. The psychological impact of amputation can run the gamut of emotions. So be prepared. Don't try to be so in control of your emotions, because it's probably not going to work out that way for you. going to cry. You're going to laugh. Everybody takes different ways of trying to deal with the emotion of losing a limb. Some people try to joke about it. Some people try to make laughter. It's hard. There's no other way to say it. It's hard. The psychological impact of amputation can run the gauntlet. I mean, it's crazy what you'll be feeling. With grief and bereavement being some of the most common emotions that you're going to experience on this path back to being normal, the grief is sometimes so strong. I mean, strong enough to feel like you've lost a loved one. A lot of people talk about how they feel, and it's hard for them to put into words the pain that they feel, the grief that they feel. It's tough. Talk about it. Process it. Do a journal. I highly recommend journaling for emotions on this path back to being normal. There's some of my shows where I talk about journaling in detail and how we use them and why we use them. So listen to those episodes. 3 reasons an amputation can have such a strong effect on a person's life are getting used to the lack of feeling of sensation in the amputated limb. It's a weird thing having a limb there for 20, 30 plus years and then it's gone. Adjusting to the presence visually, not seeing your foot there, your hand there, your arm there, all very powerful. Getting used to the lack of function of the amputated limb. The patient I mentioned earlier who was missing the arm below the elbow, he lost his predominant hand. He was learning to write with his opposite hand for the first time, learning how to do his signature, simple things. It can be a daunting reality. Take it in small bites. Creeping normality. That's why I phrase that term. Creeping normality. Slow. Small little bites. Small little increments of this path back to being normal. Simple functions of that missing limb. Leg, hand, a complete arm, whether it was your dominant side or not your dominant side, learning to do just simple things, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, signing your name, all are part of the emotional recovery aspect of it. It can become very frustrating. You can get very angry at that. Third, adapting to a new sense of body image. I talk about a lot of these in my book that I'm going to be putting out. Adapting to a new sense of body image. Look at yourself in the mirror. How do you feel? I've had many of patients terrified of losing a limb, concerned about what people would see when they see them. Some said because of how they viewed amputees before they now themselves are faced with amputation. They now are struggling with what their new sense of body image will be. Remember, everybody's normal is different. Take it step by step, day by day. how other people view your body may also change. You may also have a change on how you feel, how you emotionally perceive yourself and other people. I find that a lot of amputees get very angry with people for staring because they don't understand why people would do such a thing. I find a lot of people stare because they don't know. The average person has no knowledge of what it's like to be an amputee. I mean, we see a lot of stuff on the news from guys coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan and the war, losing limbs. But very few people know an amputee. I mean, well enough to be able to talk to him and ask questions about limb loss and how they feel to gain some type of perspective. Most people don't have that luxury. You're probably their first encounter. We can make that first encounter something that, how can I say, is one they will never forget by yelling and being mean and mad at people, or we can make that encounter something that they will never forget from a standpoint that they actually took away from that an education. I choose to educate people on limb loss and being an amputee rather than being upset with people. I don't want everybody thinking every amputee is a mean guy. and I try to let everyone know also, for every amputee is different. Approaching an amputee and asking about limb loss or staring at them, everyone takes it different. So it could be your opportunity too to help them with the next amputee that they see, to educate them with how to deal with amputees. So think about that when you see someone staring at you. I know emotionally we have a lot going on and we're mad and we're angry, but think about how you're going to set that up for the next person, for this person who's trying to figure out something or learn something. And unfortunately, there are some of those people out there who are just stupid and they make dumb comments, and there's no other way to put it. They're just rude. We need to be nice to them too. The emotional process is a tough one for a lot of amputees. Negative thoughts are extremely common and very much the normal during this time where you're a new amputee. And I've found some amputees who've been amputees for a couple of years and they're still very bitter and they're hanging on to these ill feelings. You got to let that stuff go, man, in order to start the healing process, in order to start that journey onto your new normal. Let it go. Deal with it, process it, talk about it, get some help. Other amputees are always a good resource for gaining some perspective on your new norm. Now, I'm going to say this. Not every amputee is a great resource. It's not going to do you any good to go find another angry amputee and both of y'all are sitting there having your angry party. Try to find somebody that's positive and that will uplift you and bring some sunshine to your your angry party. It doesn't help to have two angry amputees. So try to find somebody that can at least bring some positivity to your situation. So I have to watch myself when I say other amputees are a good resource. Not every, because I'm going to say this, it does you no good if you find another guy that's in the same place that you're in and both of you are trying to help each other. So think about that and really evaluate the person who you're talking to. Yes, pity loves how do they say it? Misery loves company. So don't find yourself in one of those situations. Your rehabilitation team is always a good place to look to find some type of positivity. Stay in touch with those people. If you find a physical therapist who's really positive and uplifts you and keeps you motivated, try to stay in touch with that person. I know for me, getting back on my feet, I really enjoyed going back and seeing my prosthetist and my team that helped me with my prosthetic device to show them that I was up, I was moving, and I was moving forward, getting back to a normal life. It was really rewarding for me to set that as one of my goals, to walk in front of them and let them see how much time I was putting into learning how to adapt to my new situation. So again, everything we're talking about leads to our series of talks on how to set goals and how to accomplish our goals. So this creeping normality is one of the hidden aspects in that conversation. Feelings of negativity are more likely to be present if the amputation was done under traumatic circumstances. It's that I never got to say goodbye effect. Because remember, losing a limb is similar to losing a loved one. The death of a loved one is equated to limb loss. Being able to have that time to transition, to be able to say farewell to the loss of the limb really helps. I was asked this question the other day by a surgeon who I did a luncheon with. He asked, what do you see in between the two different types of amputees, disease-related and traumatic? And we talked about this effect right here. Without that opportunity to get used to the reality of what amputation means, having some time to process it, it can be incredibly difficult to cope with it when it happens in a sudden fashion. And one of the things that's interesting about that, the two people that we're talking about, disease-related versus trauma, their recovery processes are different also. Those are in some of my talks and my podcasts. Listen for those shows, and hopefully they will help you. Sometimes there is an inability or unwillingness to accept amputation as a reality. I've seen that. I'm dealing with that currently with a couple patients where reconstructive surgery has been exhausted. Every efforts have been made to salvage the limb. Now the most logical course is amputation. And I want to say this to people who find yourselves in this situation. I never want to recommend that a patient amputate a limb. I always try to bring up quality of life. What's going to be your quality of life if you keep the limb? That's something to highly consider. And I want you to also know this. Every surgeon thinks they're the best surgeon. And that every surgeon out there's some out there that, man, I know he did this, but I could do this and I could save that and I could do this. I'm not going to bash guys or surgeons or doctors, but look at your quality of life. That's what you have to really consider when you're talking about a situation like that. I think a lot of doctors love getting that practice time, and I hate saying the term, but using you as a guinea pig for their theories. That's your choice, and that's a tough choice to make. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that just can't bring themselves to face the amputation as a reality. But prosthetics are amazing. And I was in that situation myself, so I can speak on it a little bit. I was scared to death, and I was terrified. But Matthew Garibaldi at UCFF helped me make that step into getting an amputation. And I must admit, May 19, 2012 was the day of my accident, and shortly after that, me making the decision to amputate my limb was the best decision I ever made in my life. I'm living a very full life with a prosthetic limb, and my new normal is better than what my normal was. So I'm very blessed. I'm very happy. So think about that. If you're faced in that type of situation, some people may refuse to accept this. They will need to alter their lifestyle a lot. An amputation does require you to alter your lifestyle a lot because of the amputation, and some people end up refusing that help. Other times, from the post-traumatic stress of the surgery, a lot of people go through some really tough, hard, difficult times. So, a lot of stuff to process and think about. Now, I want to end off with this because this is a big deal that a lot of people don't think about. And I did a power quote the other day on my site talking about phantom pain. Theories about the cause of phantom pain suggest it has something to do with the brain's recognition after amputation. It's very true. We're going to delve into some phantom pain and some things that you need to know about that, because phantom pain is going to be one of our things that we have to deal with in order for us to set goals for ourselves and our lives. On my next episode, we're going to get back into the goal setting series and talk about some of those concepts. So make sure you tune in for the next episode of Amp Life Talk Radio. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in, taking the time to listen to the show. Again, check us out on our social media sites, Amp Life Talk Radio on Facebook, Amp Life Talk Radio on Instagram, and Spreaker.com. Check us out over there. Make sure if you listen to the show and you find the show in the tad bit helpful, give me a shout out on my Facebook page, because I'm actually going to be taking in the new year. I'm going to be taking and doing some cool things with some of the comments that people have left for me over there. So post your comment, feedback, suggestions for show topics. I appreciate them. I do read each and every one. Drop me a message. I do try to respond to everyone who leaves me a message over on Facebook. Again, if you really want to listen to all the episodes, amplifetalkradio.com. Amplifetalkradio.com is where you can find all the episodes, including this one that I will be posting up. Leave us messages over there. Subscribe for the newsletter, which is ampnationmagazine.com. Check it out. I hope to see you guys. I hope to hear from you guys, and I look forward to bringing you more episodes here on Amp Life Talk Radio.
You are listening to Sean Harrison on Amp Life Talk Radio, a place for amputees and those dealing with limb loss. The views expressed on the show by the host, co-hosts, and guests are their own. Always seek medical advice from a licensed medical professional.